You ever have one of those sleeps where you sleep for freaking ages and then like once you wake up you're just like shit, like most of my day's gone and like I'm gonna be back asleep in like another 10, maybe 8 to 10 hours, and you it's just a huge waste of time, but you kind of enjoy the fact that you did it because you needed that sleep because of the week of work where you just freaking had no sleep at all. Did one of those today, and that's why this review is so late. So One Piece 927 Otoko the Kamuro. Now this was a slower story building chapter. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I really dislike that we get a break next week right after like a chapter that's quite slow. I mean, I prefer having a break. Well, actually, do we really prefer having a break when you see something like kick off and then it's suddenly like, oh, Luffy versus Kaido break, and you just say, oh shit, like, I really don't want that. But this, I felt like we could have developed this story with a couple chapters and it would have been really good story building, but we're on break, so that really hurts me a bit. But the chapter itself was good, so I only realized how good this chapter was when I was writing up my points for it. I was like, actually, there were quite a few bits and pieces of information which we really needed to know through this chapter. So we start with Robin, Frankie, Usopp, and Sanji convening at Sanji's special soba stand, and they discuss when Luffy is set to be freed by Raizo and such like, and his crew, you assume, which is apparently supposed to be around the time of the day of the battle. Which, when you think about it, that was like, I think Kinemon mentions that's they were going to go to Onigashima Island at like in 2 weeks time. So Luffy is set to be in prison with Kid for about 2 weeks. So these guys are going to get to know each other. They're going to be friends. They're going to come out and kick some major ass. So as they eat, we see some thugs pop up at Sanji's stall saying he hasn't requested permission to set up shop. Robin correctly identifies them as the minions of the Yakuza-looking samurai, who might actually be the head of some Yakuza. I think she mentions that. And he has a pompadour. The samurai called Kyoshiro. We saw Robin kind of doing her duties to him in a room. She was just performing for him. And they demand payment, these minions, in order to protect the soba stall. But after being rejected by Sanji, because he's like, I can protect my own ass, they proceed to trash the place and throw all the food on the floor and on the ground and stuff like that. Let me just put that on silent. And obviously, if there's one person who you don't want to throw food on the floor in front of, it's Sanji. Especially if he's the one that's made the food. So we actually also see this one kid who gets her soba slapped out of her hands, and she just smiles while she's crying, and it looked creepy as fuck. But there's probably some sort of tragic backstory somewhere around there, so just anticipate that. Usopp and Robin step back, knowing full well that Sanji's about to kick some ass, and Frankie's always ready for a fight. So we knew we were definitely gonna get some major whoop ass. So this happens. But they let one guy escape. They kick the shit out of everyone. They let one guy escape, which I thought was pretty negligent for both Sanji and Frankie. You know, that's not something both of them would do, but they seem to have let it slide because they just didn't want to cause more of a ruckus. Sanji's attack had some real menace behind it. I mean, it looked violent as shit. And I loved the fact that Frankie's attack was a throwback to Senor Pink and his fight with him. Once everyone has vanished due to the violence, like so this huge ass line of women going towards the soba stall has vanished. Everybody else has vanished. Sanji spots that smiling girl and gives her a plate of soba, or the only one left, and she introduces herself as Toko, and she's a child from the capital. She proceeds to interact with the crew, making them laugh, making a joke about being Otoko, you know, which means male or man in Japanese, but that's also O is the honorific used in front of a lady's name like Orobin or Onami. So it was a good joke, to be fair. It was pretty decent. But she makes the crew laugh and such, but the real question is, who the heck is she and why has Oda introduced her to the story? Now, whenever we see a young girl we don't know in Wano, for instance, Otama, we start to instantly theorize. Everybody throws out the theory of, shit, that's the one, that's Momonosuke's sister, that's Hiyori, sent into the future or some shit like that. She's been sent 20 years into the future, so she hasn't aged. And I don't know, Toko she does seem to have a similar hairstyle, judging from that one silhouette we've seen of Hiyori, where we see Momonosuke and Lady Toki and Hiyori, and she's kind of hugging them as Kinemon and such come into the castle, which is aflame. She does seem to have like a similar hairstyle, a short bob, but I just don't see her as being Lady Hiyori. I don't really see it. So Toko then tells the crew that she's late for the courtesan's procession, and I was like, oh damn, courtesans, oh cool, I'm cool with that. and she runs away, bidding farewell to the crew, who seem to be pretty smitten with her. Suddenly, Robin's master just pops up, and she's like, "Shisho," and she gives us some major info, I felt. So first, she tells us that the courtesans in Wano country are treated as idols in Wano. They're superstars, like American football players in America. And that there's only one of these super idols at this moment in time in Wano by the name of Komurasaki. And this old lady hypes up Komurasaki and obviously riles up the men of the crew. Like, she's fully riling them up, and they're just like, oh shit, like, this lady sounds godly. But she also tells Robin that she will be a part of this procession of courtesans. For those unaware, a courtesan is a prostitute for those of the upper class or wealthy. And there's a small detailing I'd like to make here. Robin is a geisha. She's a performer. She doesn't do the things that prostitutes do. Komurasaki is a courtesan, which is a high class prostitute. So they're different. Geisha are more performer girls. They're just essentially not really the same as a stripper, but they're more performers. They kind of dance on the side and stuff like that, and a courtesan will do the deed. So we're also told that Orochi will hold a banquet at his castle. This is by the old Baba, and so Orochi's holding this banquet at his castle, which is where the procession of glorified harlots will be heading, essentially. Now, no doubt this will play a pivotal part of the story to come, allowing Robin to infiltrate and gain some key information about whatever Orochi's plan is, what his tendencies and his preferences, possibly in women and stuff like that. Especially if Komurasaki somehow doesn't really defect, somehow shows an affinity for the Straw Hat crew or something like that, which Luffy kind of has a history of doing. Hot ass chick. Luffy suddenly they love Luffy and they become one of his allies. So that could happen, or Robin could be found out and stripped in front of the entire court. I'm not sure which of the two storylines I prefer, but Oda sort me out. So we also find out that a Kamuro is a young girl that waits on a courtesan. Now, I'm not sure what value is placed on courtesans in Japanese culture, but I'm assuming, and I would assume, it would be a great shame to have a courtesan come from your family. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. You can blast me if I'm wrong, but that's just how that's just generally how it would be seen, I think, in the West. And I'm pretty sure, because coming from a different kind of Asian background, but Asian nonetheless, I'm pretty sure that's the same thing that would occur in Japan and China and stuff like that. So it might be safe to assume that these Kamuro are orphaned kids who, through that kind of definition of Kamuro provided by the old lady, are essentially apprentice concubines. They're the apprentice courtesans. That's what I think. So I think she's being raised by Komurasaki as kind of the next in line, or the next couple in line, because there was another girl there as well with a similar bob hairstyle, who will then become courtesans of their own. We then see a small glimpse of this super idol Komurasaki as she leads this procession towards Orochi's castle. A few things to note here. Men and women collapse and fight at the sight of Komurasaki, and she may have some sort, I think she may have some sort of glamour-based devil fruit. So, they see her and their minds are twisted, and suddenly they're just kicking each other's asses based off of her glamour. So I think she may or may not have some sort of glamour-based devil fruit, but I could totally understand if she didn't. Seeing as she's literally sparkling. I mean, come on, there's got to be some sort of hint towards some sort of glamour-like ability. But it could just be that the people are really over the top in their love for her, kind of showcasing that kind of, the Japanese love for idols. I've seen it in animes, bro. Trust me, I know this. So that's the first thing. She also seems to be very glad that she seems to be glad that Toko has returned, and seems to treat her well enough. She's like, oh, I'm glad that you've come back. I was worried about you and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that's heartwarming for now, while you're not raising her to be the next, courtesan. Also, third point, she's tall as fuck. She is really tall. Not sure what that adds to my analysis, but she got some height behind her. I mean, Komurasaki is a really tall lady. Easily taller than freaking Heart, probably taller than Kinemon. I mean, just judging by how tall she was in comparison to another bold dude that was stood next to her with staff. Really tall. So maybe there's some element of the really tall people in this anime tend to be really powerful in this manga, but I'm not too sure what this means for her. But all I can say is she's tall as shit. Another thing is her name is Komura Saki, and this chapter is called Kamuro. So I did a quick Google search for the suffix Saki, which means previous or former, apparently. So her name sounds very similar to Kamuro, and her name is Komura Saki. So maybe I'm reaching here, but maybe that prefix, the Kamuro Komura part, is it's obviously, I don't think it's her real name. I think it might just be more of a title kind of thing. But it might be suggestive of her being a previous or former Kamuro, as opposed to Komura, which is just her name. But I might be totally wrong there. That might be a complete stretch. But her name is Komurasaki. That's the bottom line. So finally, people have said that she could be Hiyori, having survived the last 20 years in Wano. That would be a major mindfuck, and no doubt a story worth hearing. Bound to be tragedy there. But then she would be better suited to leading Wano over Momo, in my opinion, who's simply too young. You know, I'm not going to be that guy that's like, you know, really, really PC and progressive and like, we need to have a female leader. And it's, you know, I don't really give a shit. If there's a leader who is worthy of being a leader, fine. It doesn't matter what gender they are. But just by her age, if she was Hiyori, she would be the best, I think, suited for the throne of Wano. Just simply because Momo is too young and he hasn't. If she's been there for the last 20 years, she deserves to rule Wano. But that's assuming that this Komurasaki is in actuality Hiyori, which once again I doubt. I don't really think she could be, but it would be a major kind of mindfuck if that was to be the case. So the chapter ends with two things occurring. Two things. Kyoshiro orders his men to ask Queen to send assassins after Sanji and company for beating the shit out of his boys. Cool. Apparently that's going to cause a ruckus, and if they're assassins sent by Queen, you'd assume maybe they'd have some sort of strength behind them. Maybe nothing that Frankie and Sanji and Usopp couldn't handle, but it would probably be entertaining. There's bound to be some form of smile ability that they have that would just be awesome, or maybe just really stupid. And maybe Sanji can knock the crap out of them, gain information from them through that. We then also see Orochi being informed of Komurasaki's procession getting closer to his castle. And he makes it very clear that he's straight trying to dive into those DMs. You know, he's straight trying to slide into those DMs on like a freaking slip and slide. And the key thing to note is that he's got the hots for actually, no, that's not the key thing to know. That's not the key thing to know. So even though he is trying to slide into her DMs, that isn't really the key thing. It's not the fact that he's got the hots for a paramour. The thing here to note is that we see him behind this kind of sliding door. And you know, the Japanese sliding doors, they're always like, if there's light, you can see awesome silhouettes. It's always in an anime and stuff like that. So we see Orochi's silhouette behind one of these doors, where we see 5 serpentine heads, dragon heads, by the way, or kind of like Hydra-ish heads, hovering in the air well, not really hovering in the air, they're held up by long-ass serpentine necks behind them. Now, the only thing, I was like, yo, shit, like, Orochi, does he actually have, like, some sort of Hydra-based / mythical Zoan Orochi-based fruit? Because they're kind of, I've forgotten what the actual full term is. Orochi's kind of half of it, but there is a whole Japanese mythology based off of Orochi, and I think the sword is something like, it's called grass cutter or something like that. And you hear a lot of these legendary items referenced in Naruto and stuff like that. And that story is where Orochi comes from, this Japanese mythology. But the only thing that I kind of noted is that it looks, the 5 heads that we see, we only see 5, they look very kind of theatery and very prop-like. Not the actual Orochi from Japanese mythology. So I feel there's more to this than meets the eye. And maybe Orochi isn't quite so Orochi as he seems. So, with that having been said, let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. Let me know what you guys thought of this review. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, earlier than this, in order to release my My Hero Academia review. Monday, Tuesday, and Sunday evening, I'll be in a different city, so I won't have my camera and my mic. But I might be on Discord or something with Grim Reaper. So if you do want to see that, jump on Grim Reaper's Discord. You'd probably be able to hear hear us talking about the Taizai chapter. So it wouldn't be a review, but it would be my opinions on the Taizai chapter, if you're into that kind of thing. So let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. Let me know what you guys thought of this review. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in a bit.